everybody have a seat, please? We're ready to get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Corey Stevens. I'm going to be just making a few introductions. I'd like to thank Lackawanna College, Mark Volk, Dominic Nichols for all their help in putting this together. And I had the chance to speak here many times to the police graduations and get an opportunity to thank our police officers for the work they do. First person I'd like to introduce is Mark Volk. He's the president here at Lackawanna College. He's a retired colonel in the United States Army, former chief of the Strategic Leadership Division at the Pentagon, and he has had many military achievements in his career. He is taking Lackawanna College upward and onward. Mark, would you like to say a few words?
One, I'd just like to thank all of the judges for taking the time to come up here and visit us, and for allowing us to host in conjunction with both the Greater Scranton and the Wilkes-Barre Chambers of Commerce. We're honored to have you all here and look very much forward to interacting with you, and I know the crowd will as well. So thank you and welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Next, I'd like to introduce Robert Durkin, the president and CEO of the Scranton Chamber. I've been talking too much today. So, the executive director, he was the president of the Northeast Regional Cancer Institute for 14 years. He's a Penn State graduate, and he's the head of the Scranton Chamber. Robert Durkin, would you like to come up and say a few words?
There you go. Well, thank you, Judge Stevens, and welcome everybody today. I understand it was a great session this afternoon, so we're going to take credit for all the numbers for both sessions, and really do appreciate the time that the judges have committed to this whole effort. I will say this, because I did have a chance to talk to some of the judges about this. The Greater Scranton Chamber of Commerce, among our various programs, has really focused a great deal on women's leadership development. And we've worked with the Wilkes-Barre Chamber on our Women's Leadership Conference. We have multiple programs throughout the year focusing on the development of women's leadership. And I've said to the judges, I think one of the great things in looking at this bench and seeing that the majority of the judges sitting on this bench are women, and clearly women of great standing. I think it's a great example for the young people of our community to be able to see this, to aspire to such leadership roles. And so I think I would give credit on two fronts. one for being outstanding jurists, but also for being role models for women across the Commonwealth. So I'd like to say welcome to Scranton, welcome to Northeastern Pennsylvania. Great to have you. Right.
Thanks.
And Wiko Van Jordan, to say it close, president and CEO of the Wilkes-Barre Chamber, and he has had many, many people under his tutelage in various capacities when he's with Diebold VP and Managing Director, Asia Pacific. So would you come up and say a few words?
So, 上好，你好吗？ Goedemorgen, bonjour, comment ça va? And so with a name like Vico van Genderen, I mean, you could probably tell you're not from around here. I'm actually just got time stamped from Bobby. Let me come into the county over here, so I did get my special visa coming in from Wilkes-Barre. I wanted to point that out. I would also echo the comments that Bob said. Bob and I are fantastic friends. That we welcome you all to come up here, and thank you very much for that, as well as also we heard you had some great meetings, but I also heard you had an amazing lunch meeting over here as well. I mean, the food up here is tremendous, is it not? So, I mean, just a tremendous opportunity for you guys to come up here. We really do appreciate it, and I think the other thing that I wanted to point out is that, you know, Bob and I have really been trying to make sure that from a chamber perspective that we really do look at things regionally now from a complete NEPA perspective, because we really see that as an opportunity for us all to float all of the boats, all the rising boats. So just a tremendous opportunity to do that. So again, wanted to thank you guys for being here today. We really do appreciate it, and welcome to Scranton and northeastern Pennsylvania.
Okay, at this time I would like to introduce the man that put this all together, my colleague and my friend, Judge Jack Piniella. He's a former trial judge. He told me, he read me the Riot Act. Don't say too much. He's not one that seeks the limelight, but got to know a little bit about him. He's a former trial judge in Northampton County. He was president judge on the Court of Judicial Discipline and president judge on the Judicial Conduct Board. He was elected to the Superior Court in 2003. He's been active in bar associations in the county, and we all know him here because he's part of the Wilkes-Barre Law and Library. We had court here at Lackawanna College. We actually had court in the dormitory at the University of Scranton, and we had a lot of people show up there. We had court in the courthouse, of course, also. And Zach's been very active throughout the state. He's put together several publications to assist the magisterial district justices and the trial judges in Pennsylvania on issues such as the Pennsylvania Sexual Violence Bench Book. And he was recognized last year by the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape, and they honored him with their Visionary Award. I just want to read you one paragraph of what they said. Judge Piniella has served as a powerful ally in the fight to end sexual violence, advocating for a trauma-informed judicial system, and providing training for judges and attorneys throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I've had the good fortune, he and I have traveled the state together doing CLEs, visiting bar associations and community groups. And he's very well respected throughout the state. He represents the Superior Court well, and he's going to have some things to say about our wonderful other Superior Court judges here. So my friend and my colleague, Jack Piniella.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always wonderful to be in the Northeast. I'm not saying this just because you're from here, but there is certainly a special type of warmth and glow up here in the Northeast. You really feel welcomed. And I feel like I'm more of a member of the Lackawanna and Luzerne Bar Associations than I am of my own. That's how wonderful it is to be here. In saying that, I know the president of the Luzerne County Bar Association, Jane Ackrey, is here. Would you stand up for a moment, Jane? And I'm not sure, Greg Germain was going to try to be here. He might be a little late. Later on, we're also expecting the judges from both Lackawanna and Luzerne counties, and they will more than likely get here in time for the reception. Let me tell you why we're doing this. This is the second one that we have organized. We originally met with the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce for this reason, and I mean this. In Pennsylvania, I think we have a great system of electing judges. And please believe me on this. A lot of people talk about merit selection. Are members of the news media here? Let me tell you something. There's hardly anything known as merit selection. It's political selection, okay? It's who has the best contacts, who contributes money. Let's not give up our right to vote all that easily. And I am actually very proud of the accomplishments of the Pennsylvania judiciary. We have kept the Bill of Rights and both the Pennsylvania and United States Constitutions alive. And I think especially our Pennsylvania Supreme Court has done a wonderful job for us. So just a little preaching there. That's what we're all about. The reason we do this is we do run for elections. And we receive support from a lot of different avenues. But after we get elected, we stay very close to what people normally call the trial lawyers, the lawyers who do the suing, who sue people. We sort of sometimes lose touch with the business community who gives us an equal amount of support. And we want to correct maybe that, and we want to reach out and be with the business community a little more so that way people understand how the judicial process works. We are the most misunderstood branch of government. So that's why we're here. Before I introduce the speakers, and we have a wonderful group of speakers this afternoon, I got to tell you one story about Justice Stevens. I still call him Justice. We were in a limousine. It's my wife and me and Justice Stephen and his soon-to-be wife, Louise. And we were going to where I was going to perform their wedding ceremony. And we're driving, and of course we had a little champagne in the limo, and he gets a phone call, and the phone call is, you were just confirmed for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court by the Pennsylvania Senate. Does life get any better than that? He's going to his wedding. He just became a member of the Supreme Court. We did the wedding ceremony, and boy, did we party that night. Well, just a few other things before we begin. We are also very, very privileged to have the Vice President of the Pennsylvania Bar Association, and he's one of your own. This is Attorney David Schwager. David, would you wave hello to everybody? And we do a lot of work with the PBA. I am equally proud of the accomplishments of the PBA. When we hear the oral arguments, the quality is really excellent. The attorneys do a fabulous job of preparing their cases. So we think very highly of the members of the PBA who appear before us. And by the way, isn't this nice? You're not appearing before us. This is the way to know us. You want to know us socially. You don't want to know us professionally. And this is a nice way of getting to know the judges. We're going to be putting on a program for you about how the judiciary operates. The first speaker is going to talk about when a case is first filed and how it flows through the system. And then we're going to hear about two separate courts which we have set up specifically to handle business-related cases in the two counties in which we have most of them, Philadelphia and Allegheny. With us today, we're very privileged. These are the 4 new judges on the Superior Court. All 4 were elected last year. They joined us this year, and it's really a pleasure sitting with all 4 of them. First, I'll begin on my right. This is Judge Maria Mclaughlin, who comes to us from Philadelphia. Next is Judge Carolyn Nichols, who also is from the Court of Common Pleas of Philadelphia. Sitting to my left is Judge Deborah Kunselman, who comes to us from the West, from Allegheny, right? But you live in Beaver. And I'm sorry, I know she's from Beaver because I visited her office and I said, this is unbelievable. I'm sitting in your office and I'm looking at the Ohio River. That's how far out she is. And of course, we have from Allegheny County, Judge Mary Murray. What we're going to do is we're going to start with Judge Mary Murray, who's going to do that overview of the court system. Then we're going to hear about the Philadelphia Commerce Court from Judge Mclaughlin, then the Allegheny Commerce Court from Judge Kunselman, and then Judge Nichols is going to sort of preside over a question and answer period for any questions that you might have. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Judge Mary Murray. Yes.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm actually a member of the Pittsburgh Airport Area Chamber of Commerce. The part of Allegheny County I'm from is by the Greater Pittsburgh International Airport and home of Robert Morris University. I'm going to give you a big overview of the court system and then specifically talk about what might be interesting for small businesses in this area. So our court system is broken up into 2 sections. First is the federal, and then there's the Pennsylvania. And the reason I broke it up like I did is so you could see the same levels as they compare across federal and state lines. So in the federal side, we have the U.S. Supreme Court, which is the top court of the United States and is the overall ruler of all the decisions. Underneath it is the Court of Appeals, then the district courts, and then the smaller courts, which include claims court, tax court, bankruptcy court, and the Court of International Trade. Some of you might get involved with bankruptcy court if a client of yours actually files for bankruptcy and you need to put a claim in that court in order to hopefully collect some sort of money. So I did want to make sure that you knew that's federal. If they do file it, it stops all cases in the state of Pennsylvania. So any case that is currently pending is stayed. And you have the opportunity, like I said, to file a claim as a creditor in those cases. Under Pennsylvania, you have our Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and then we have two side-by-side appellate courts. The court that we sit on, the Superior Court, and the Commonwealth Court, which is a specialized court in the sense that they hear all the municipal type law type cases. They will do licensing, they will do an appeal on any kind of license suspension, municipal court kind of cases in the sense of, you know, a municipality is suing, a police station, a police department is suing for their union, those types of cases. Then there's the Court of Common Pleas, which a lot of you are probably familiar with, the trial courts of each county. And then I put down the two other courts that sometimes get left out, but where a lot of cases are actually heard. The Philadelphia Municipal Court is specific to Philadelphia. That county actually has municipal court, and their jurisdiction is up to $15,000 for civil lawsuits. The Magisterial District Court is the court in the rest of the area of the state of Pennsylvania, which I was a member of for 14 years, and we hear all claims up to $12,000. So this is the specific hierarchy. So depending on the nature of your case, if you are in Pennsylvania and you want to file in Philadelphia because you have a small claim, you could file in Philadelphia, or you can file in the Magisterial District Court. And the reason I definitely put these in is a lot of cases are held in those type of courts. So you might get a case where a contractor is being sued for not finishing a house. You might, in reverse, the contractor may sue for a bill, a small personal injury action, an actual bill of a person who owns a business that actually didn't get paid. Those are the types of cases that you would hear that are under $12,000. If they're above $12,000 but under $25,000 or $35,000, it would be the Pennsylvania Common Pleas Court. Each county has one trial court, except for I think there's two of them that share their actual courts throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Otherwise, there's 67 counties. And then the direct appeals from the Court of Common Pleas, if they're related to our jurisdiction, which is criminal, civil, family, and orphans court, comes to the Superior Court. Everything else goes to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And then lastly, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which has a limited jurisdiction as to what they want to hear. So the difference between the Philadelphia Municipal Court and magisterial courts, since they're similar, the Philadelphia Municipal Court has a president judge and 26 judges underneath him or her. There are 512 magisterial district courts currently in the state of Pennsylvania. Each of those judges have a president judge over them. So when I was in Allegheny County, there were 46 of us. The president judge of Allegheny County was our president judge, and he oversaw the courts. Philadelphia, you have the full kind of cases. They try criminal cases with a maximum sentence up to 5 years. Civil cases, like I said, up to 12,000. Real estate and school tax cases up to 15, and landlord, tenant, and traffic cases. The magisterial district courts have a similar jurisdiction. We actually have a lot of different types. We do preliminary hearings, set bonds for criminal cases, sign search warrants. The civil cases up to 12,000. Any landlord-tenant case, we have the ultimate original jurisdiction to kick somebody out of their house or their business. So you could have a business that you are leasing an actual office building, and the tenant could owe you $20,000 in rent for 2 or 3 months, or 6 months, depending on how long you've waited. And in order to get possession of that property, you actually have to come in front of the magisterial district judge to get possession. And then you can either appeal it, or if the tenant appeals it, which is usually what happens, you can get the rest of your money at common pleas. And I say that loosely because really, let's face it, you get the judgment, you may never get the money. Then there's traffic and non-traffic cases, which the majority of magisterial district judges across the state hear a lot of those. That can be anywhere from an underage drinking case to a truancy case to an actual speeding case, or for not failing to stop at a stop sign or not yielding to the police on the highway. PFAs and private criminal complaints are also handled there. And we can do weddings, bails, and search warrants. And like I said, the civil cases go up to $12,000. So the Pennsylvania trial courts are courts of general jurisdiction, which means they can hear anything. Any appeal from an actual magisterial district court is held at the trial court. So a lot of times attorneys have said, and I think this is probably good advice if the claim is small and the client is competent enough to handle it, you will send the client themselves. You might file the complaint in the magisterial district judge court, but then you will send your client there to handle it themselves. And then when the other party appeals, then you handle it in trial court, file the complaint, or file the answer depending on the situation. There are 60 judicial districts, 53 comprising of one of the 67 counties and 7 comprising of 2 counties. And each district has anywhere from 1 to 93 judges. And I guess you could figure the 93 are in Philly. So the Pennsylvania trial courts, if you were filing there, you would have the sample name on the cover sheet would be the Common Police Court of whichever county, so in this case either Lackawanna or Luzerne, and the parties would be the plaintiff and the defendant. The plaintiffs initiate the action. The defendant is the person being sued. That does not change in any of the levels. So if you're filing in a magisterial district judge court, it's still a plaintiff and defendant. It's a one-page sheet that can easily be filed. There's a judge that presides over the case, and then, as I said, there's jurisdiction. And the judge who can actually hear the case as a bench trial, which the judge makes its own decision, or as a jury trial, which is what you always hear about and see on the news. And like I said, depending on the size of the county, the actual common police court of that county may be split up. So when I clerk in Allegheny County, where I'm from, we have specific divisions: civil, criminal, family, and orphans. But when I clerked in Beaver County a number of years ago, they didn't have those divisions because they had a limited amount of judges. They did have judges that would hear certain cases, but it wasn't exactly like a division that you would see in like the larger counties. And then if you get a smaller county, obviously I have a clerk that came from Venango, and there's 2 judges in that county, so they basically have split everything. He told me that the judge he handled did all the criminal and some of the civil cases, and then all the orphans court and any kind of termination of parental rights was done by the other judge with the family. So Commerce Court, which the other judges are going to talk about, could be a specialty court in that actual county. This is an old picture, because our official picture isn't out yet, of the actual Superior Court of Pennsylvania. And any party who loses at the trial court has the automatic right to appeal to our court. And what's unique about that is that means anybody. So as a magisterial district judge, I saw a lot of pro se defendants, and I am amazed at how many I still see on appeal. And I'm not talking about criminal defendants. I'm talking about the family division type cases, a PFA that they're unhappy about, a custody case. They were sentenced for a small amount of marijuana or a disorderly conduct or obstructing the highway, and they have the automatic right and will appeal to our court. So the whole entire state is broken up into 3 districts for our court: a western district, a middle district, and the eastern district. And you can see by the colors the different versions of where those lie. So in the Superior Court, the parties are a little different. The appellant is the person who is appealing the case, is the one who's unhappy with the trial court decision, and the appellee is the person who won in the lower court normally. Occasionally, they cross-file, so they will be both parties, but they usually designate on our complaints which one or which. We hear in 3-judge panels, and we only hear legal arguments. There's no jury, there's no evidence presented, and when we hear oral arguments, it's funny, but you'll hear different versions of the case, but they have 5 minutes of an expedited each side, or 15 minutes standard. So on a period of 2 days, normally there's 45 cases split between those 2 days, and out of those 2 days, you'll have so many that are expedited that have the 10 minutes, and so many that have the total 30 minutes. But we also see the majority of our stuff submitted, and which means that basically the paper comes in. So we get both sides of the cases, we get access to the records, and the panel still makes the decision, but we don't actually hear argument. So we have 3 types of relief. The first one is we are known as an error-correcting court, so a lot of times the first one is what ends up happening, and that means we affirm the trial court decision below. If there's no clear abuse of discretion, no error, we affirm. We can reverse the trial court if we feel that the decision of the trial court was improper. They admitted evidence that shouldn't have been admitted. We will reverse them. And then we can remand it to send it back to the trial court for instructions to further issue a case. Some of the cases that have been coming back lately, we've sent back due to not having a child represented in a dependency case, or maybe not following the actual case law or the current statute as far as sentencing for a sexual offender. So the Pennsylvania Supreme Court was established in 1722, and it's the oldest appellate court in the nation. That picture is actually the Pennsylvania Judicial Center in Harrisburg, and that was built a number of years ago. The actual Supreme Court of Pennsylvania in Harrisburg, though, sits in the state capitol on one of the top floors. So basically with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, if you're unsuccessful at the Superior Court, you have the right to file a petition for allowance of appeal. And they have the right to decide whether to hear that case or not. They often limit the types of cases they listen to policy or constitutional issues. So some of the things that you've seen lately that have come out from the Pennsylvania Superior Court have to do with whether, the new SORNA laws a number of years ago were actually ex post facto, or whether the redistricting was correct. So you'll get a mix of cases because they have the right to hear either from the Commonwealth or the Superior Court, and those are the types of cases that they choose that they want to hear. And that's it for me.
I'm going to stay here to introduce our next speaker, who is Judge Maria Mclaughlin, who is going to speak about the system in Philadelphia. Give me 1 minute. It's right here.
Click this, Mayor.
Come on.
Mayor, where do you click in the middle?
There we go. I did that. I'm 63 years old, and I was able to operate a computer.
Well, I'm 52, and I'm sure I'm not going to be able to. And I'm not going to go probably word for word off the PowerPoint. I don't want to keep us longer than the program is, especially after that lunch at Angelo's. I think we're all ready for a nap after that lunch. But my name's Maria Mclaughlin, and I am a judge on the Superior Court. But I'm fortunate enough to come from Philadelphia, which is where there was the very first Commerce Court. And in Philadelphia, we love disputes. So it's no wonder that we were the first county, out of only 2 counties really, that have a Commerce Court, a specialty court. And my uncle was one of the presidents of the Chamber of Commerce in Philadelphia, so we were always settling business disputes, it seemed, at our dinner table. So it's no wonder I was asked to discuss what happens in our Commerce Court in Philadelphia. What I think that everywhere around the state is fortunate is because in Pennsylvania, you have a court on the Superior Court that is well-versed in all business issues. So rest assured that when your appeal gets before our court, between all of the judges that are on our court and our 5 law clerks each, we are able to handle anything that comes before the court. One of my very first cases on this court was, I think, a $25 million business dispute. So we were ready. So that's what I think. At least you should feel good in knowing that our court can handle just about any case that comes before it. In Philadelphia, I think the first thing that you have to do when it comes to our court is realize whether it's state versus federal. When you get a case that comes before the court, you would be surprised at some of the lawyers that file in the wrong court. So you have to determine, is this a state case or is this a federal case? And is it federal court jurisdiction? That comes through the Constitution. It's a much more specialized. It has to be over $75,000. And does it arise under federal law? Many of the business cases that come before the federal court are patent infringement, antitrust, and civil RICO actions. In state court, it's a court of general jurisdiction, the court of common pleas, and they hear all the cases that arise out of the state law. What is a business court? So it covers specialized dockets. In Philadelphia, and it varies through county, but what I will tell you about Philadelphia, in Philadelphia, we have 3 judges that are assigned just to handle business matters. That is all that they do, and in addition to maybe some class actions, they do just the business cases. So you have 3 judges, and they get to handle the cases from start to finish. There's nothing like that. And so you get the case, it gets assigned to one of our 3 judges. They have, at any time, 200 cases each on their docket. And they get it from start, again, from the filing until the settlement. And I say settlement because I made sure that before coming here, I spoke to the judges that still handle these matters, and they assured me that about 96% of the cases settle. And so that's another great benefit of having a commerce court, a specialized commerce court, is in Philadelphia we have attorneys that volunteer on a pro bono basis. They're all approved between the bench and the bar. They're lawyers that specialize in business law. There are a lot of our chancellors of our bar associations. And so when the case comes in, you meet with them and they sit as a judge pro tem. They go over your case. You get 1 hour with them. They narrow down the issues. If you choose to continue with them as a mediator, you can hire them on an hourly basis. But that 1 hour, what that does to narrow down issues before you get to the judge, it's amazing. And so I think that's another plus with Philadelphia. Every judge has one, in a court of common pleas, every judge has 1 law clerk each. But the Commerce Court in Philadelphia also has 4 lawyers that are assigned, specially as law clerks, that come from business law sector, and that's all they do. And they have a court administrator. So it's really a process when you come in Philadelphia. They know what they're doing. You get judges that stay there. And we've had almost 20 years already with our Commerce Court running. Again, this is what we do in Philadelphia. The cases in Philadelphia, they're under the UCC, purchase of a sales or business assets, non-consumer banking transactions, surety bonds. Again, in Philadelphia, when they come to our court, I think the judge that I spoke to just last week, he said he had maybe 4 trials in the last 3 years. So it works. What we do works. You get the judge pro tem to sit down and discuss with the 2 lawyers what the real issues are. Those issues then get to the, and we know what they can be assessed at, what the real issues are, what the discovery issues are. And so it's such a benefit to have judges that know this area of the law and can deal with the business community. And again, have this would never have been established in Philadelphia if it wasn't for the cooperation with the bench and the bar and the business community. And so I think in order to start a business court, a commerce court in any jurisdiction, you have to have that. And we're very fortunate in Philadelphia to have that. I joke and say we like disputes, but I also just gave you the stats. We settle them. So that's a good thing. In Philadelphia specifically, let me see where we are. Our judges are Judge Gary Glazer right now, who's the supervising judge. Let me see. Judge Nina Wright Padilla and Judge Rami DeGracy. And they dispose of 600 cases a year. And like I said, 96% of the cases are disposed of within 24 months. When you think of the complexities of the business cases that we get in Philadelphia, they're pretty good stats. That 96% of them settle, and within 2 years. And that's 2 years from the filing. So we've had people come in. We've had people look at our court. And even the Committee of 70, who gives everybody a hard time in Philadelphia, loves the Commerce Court. So we've had rave reviews, and again, when I see these cases at the Superior Court level, I can tell you we get a number of them from Philadelphia, and they are so well documented. Now they even have their cases ready to go to Superior Court already. They already know what issues we need to have. And think about it, when they get to our court, they're issues that are so specific that it's certainly easy for us as judges to handle. So I don't know, I know that in Lackawanna and Luzerne, I think they're handled through your civil docket. I'm sure Lisa could handle them in Luzerne County. See? But I mean, I see? So I mean, I think you don't want to push Commerce Court on to too many counties, because your county also has to warrant it. I mean, when you take judicial resources, law clerks, administrators, you have to have enough cases to warrant it. So in Philadelphia, we have nearly 100 Court of Common Pleas judges, but these 3 judges, that's all they do. And it does work. So it is definitely a positive. But speaking from the Superior Court, I just want the business community to know that your cases are sound with us. There are every single one of us that has this case, any kind of business case. We have law clerks and us that all have different varying backgrounds, but all that can handle the business disputes. So thank you very much for having us. And now the other county that has a Commerce Court, which is Allegheny County.
And everyone, like I said, this is Judge Deborah Kunselman, who comes to us from the western side of the state, from Beaver County. And you know, I come from a small county, Northampton County, which is just a third-class county. The numbers that Philadelphia and Allegheny crunch are really incredible, the job that these judges do in those 2 counties. And I believe, Judge Kunselman, in addition to talking about Commerce Court, you're also going to talk about something that's very popular in the business community, which is alternative resolution. As that goes around. So I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you for having me. I noticed that a week ago you called it NEPA, so I guess we're from SWEPA, because they put the SWEPA people over here and the NEPA people over here. So thank you for having us. Unfortunately, Mary had sat yesterday on an en banc panel. What that means is, after you've tried your case between 3 of us, 3 on an argument court, if you feel that you want a broader perspective of our court, you can ask for re-argument. And we grant about 20 of those a year. And so they sat yesterday in Philadelphia. So I didn't even get to drive out here with Mary. I had to drive out here by myself today, and then drive back tomorrow. But I'm really, really glad to be here. So as we told you, we're going to talk to you a little bit about, and Maria and I had a lot of the same slides here, about Allegheny County Commerce Court. So I am right next to Allegheny County in Beaver County. In my county, we only had 7 judges, and so we did not have a separate Commerce Court. Allegheny County, like Philadelphia, has a lot. What did you have, 93 judges in Philadelphia?
100 now, yeah.
100 in Philadelphia. There are 43 judges in Allegheny County. Just to give you perspective, cases are handled per year in that court. Just to give you, again, a little bit of perspective, across the state of Pennsylvania, in all of our courts at the trial court level, we hear about 600,000 cases. And about 8,000 of them get appealed to us at the Superior Court. And I think it's 3,000 or 4,000 that get appealed to the Commonwealth Court. And of that, 2,000 has to go to the Supreme Court, and they decide about 200. So there's not even, as a whole, that many cases that are coming into us. Of the 8,000 that come into us, about 1,700 are around that number are civil. And then if you break that down even further into how many of those are business-related cases, I haven't done the math, but it's not that many that would warrant us to have a separate division on our court just to handle commerce matters, because there's just not enough of them to devote those kind of judicial resources to. Plus, we're all so smart that we don't feel you need to hire separate people to be able to do commerce court matters. As Maria said, between our general knowledge and the knowledge of all of our law clerks, and the very well-written briefs of the attorneys who handle these kinds of matters, we think we have it pretty much well under control. So in Allegheny County, the Commerce Court, the plaintiff can move to include it in the program as soon as a complaint is filed, or a defendant can do that when they file their answer, when they get the complaint. And It talks about what happens here is that you get, again, one judge who's going to provide for efficient, cost-effective, timely, and fair resolution of the case. Fair resolution of the case. So normally in Allegheny County, when you file a civil matter, you could bounce from judge to judge on various motions throughout the litigation. Even when you pick your jury versus when you try your case or when you try your suppression motion on the criminal side, you never get one judge. But in Commerce Court, you do. So that judge sees the case going all the way through the system and becomes very familiar with the issues, the parties, and those types of things. So the types of cases that are eligible for that are similar to Philadelphia. We have corporate governance matters, including shareholder actions, any mergers or sales of businesses or corporate assets, if there's restrictive covenants, in a contract or in property that would disrupt your business affairs, intellectual property or trade secret cases. We get a lot of that. You know, people leave one job to another job, and we don't want them taking any trade secrets. They signed a contract that they wouldn't do that, and so people come in on injunctions, and we have to act on those at the trial court level in a very, very short period of time so that there's no further harm done. Securities actions, and then any claims related to the internet or electronic commerce, and class actions about business topics. As I told you, that UPMC case was a class action. Also, any complex non-business cases can be designated as a complex case. For example, if there's a big food poisoning case where many, many defendants, asbestos cases are considered complex, they would be eligible for this type of a program. Again, cases that can be, those are automatically considered part of the Commerce Court. Other cases can be added to that. Those are ones that are decided under the Uniform Complex Employer-Employee disputes, including discrimination claims, insurance disputes, business insolvencies. So you get the idea. Generally, any matter that is involving business-related things. However, there is a limitation on that. So landlord-tenant cases, for example, regarding just possession are not part of the Commerce Court. Also, mortgage foreclosure actions are not part of the Commerce Court. I can remember back, I was on the trial court in Beaver County for 12 years, and when we would get our legal journal, you probably get the same thing where it lists all the cases. How many of your civil cases are mortgage foreclosures? Probably half. You know, people just aren't able to pay their mortgage, and so many of those cases are going to settle. If we try to put them into a mortgage foreclosure diversion program so they can keep their house, you have something like that, I'm sure, which is very, very helpful to try to get the bank to refinance or work with the homeowner, because let's face it, the bank doesn't want the house back. They would prefer to have the person stay in it. And enforcement of judgments or opening of default judgments are also not included in that. So the program, again, like Philadelphia, has been very well received. Commerce program is preferred by federal court for some reasons because the judges are known. There's a commitment to efficient case management and getting the case moving through the docket, and there's some business expertise involved in that. And some commerce cases that are filed in nearby counties are transferred or coordinated with Allegheny County to take advantage of the program. But I can tell you, even based on my experience, I had a rather complex business case that was filed before me in Beaver County, and there was a venue provision in the contract which meant that the parties could choose between one of two counties to file their lawsuit. They had agreed to that in advance, and they chose Beaver or Allegheny County. And then one of them filed in Butler. Go figure. The Butler County dismissed it, and then they had the option of choosing Allegheny County Commerce Court, and instead they chose to come to me in Beaver County. Mm-hmm. And I kept repeatedly telling those lawyers, look, Christine Ward is supposed to have this case. But then I decided the case. Ironically, it went up to our court. I was affirmed there, and it went up to our court yesterday and was argued before several of these people, and I don't know the answer yet. So we'll see if I was right at the trial court. But it was a complex case involving two trucking companies who had, between them, agreed to a no-hire provision, that they would not hire the employees of the other. So you see the type of disputes that we get into. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, in addition to the Commerce Court, was another reason why I don't think that we need to have a separate Commerce Division at the appellate level.
Friends, I recognize them anywhere. Of course, Judge Lisa Gelb is here from Luzerne County. And this might be the first time I say this. President Judge Emeritus Thomas Berg is here, also from Luzerne County. We regularly handle thousands and thousands of cases and all different types of cases, so please don't hesitate. You don't often get an opportunity like this to ask any questions that you might have. I'm going to turn it over now to Judge Carolyn Nichols, who joins us. She was a common pleas judge in Philadelphia before she was elected to the Superior Court.
Well, I get to preside over the fun, get to ask questions. You've heard our presentations, and I hope you are confident, if you weren't when you came in this room, that your cases are in good hands at the Superior Court. But as you see, about 96–97% of the cases, business cases, don't make it there because they resolve before going through trial or going through the appellate process. But should the case not resolve and the case should your case come to our court, I hope you are confident now that we are ready, raring to go, right? Post-election. It's good to be here post-election, right, team? We're successful. We won. We ran through 67 counties, and we are ready to go. We're ready to hear your case. So we're excited about it. So with everything you've heard, does anybody have any questions? Uh-oh.
First of all, with the prospect of Luzerne County having a Commerce for Business Court moving forward, I want to note it for the record that they're much more argumentative than we are in Lackland. We would dispute that.
Oh, there we go.
The idea of in Allegheny and Beaver, where there was an opportunity to go to select a county.
Right.
How does that happen? Does that have to be an agreement?
It was in their contract, actually.
Yeah, it was in it. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what
it was actually in the parties' contract between the two trucking companies. They had a provision in the contract that said, and these are very common, choice of law provisions you'll see, especially between entities from different states, will have Pennsylvania law shall apply, and they can go so far as to say any dispute shall be brought in the Court of Common Pleas of Philadelphia or the Court of Common Pleas of, in this case it said Allegheny or Beaver County. The company was located, one company was located in Beaver County, one company was located in Allegheny County. But the one had moved to Butler after that contract was entered into, a few years after, and that's why they started in Butler County, and then Butler said, no, I'm not taking it.
Yeah.
The action that took place, or the issue,
Mm-hmm.
you argue it took place in both counties.
No, they chose. They could choose either one. It didn't matter what happened with the underlying action. The contract itself said, if we get into a dispute, we want it to be resolved in one of these two counties. We agree to that going into the deal. And that's why they were able to then choose either one. I thought it was significant that they could have chosen, when there's the whole concept of being here today was the idea of, well, we need commerce courts. These parties actually had a choice to go to a commerce court and chose not to.
Yeah. Well, that also brings, now that you've raised that point, often we see cases in Philadelphia, in business and at least in civil cases, there's this mythology of the magic of the Philly juror. And people want Philly juries very badly. So there are a lot of forum non-convenes cases that come up all the time where there's civil actions where actually the site of an incident might happen in Tennessee. These are real cases, happen way down, but somehow folks are trying to figure out a magical connection so that they can come to Philly and get one of these Philly juries that are going to award all this money and everybody's going to be so happy, and that's how they see it in their mind. So those kinds of cases come up all the time where people try to figure out what county they want. In this case, Debbie was the lucky county.
I was the winner.
But oftentimes it is Philadelphia County because people want to get their case in front of a Philly jury. It's like this mythology about the Philly jury, so people try to figure out all kinds of ways. It's very complex. The